Folks, it's the Smoking Tire Podcast, and on this episode, man, we are on a roll because Tiff Needell is here. Not really here. He's at his house. It's in England, but he's here with us via virtual, internet. He's here on the internet, basically. But he is a great guest. You remember last week we had James May and he didn't disappoint in his James Mayness? Well, Tiff Needell does not disappoint in his Tiffness. This guy, DGAF. This is 90 minutes of Tiff talking shit. I love this guy. He has no F's left to give, and he gives none of them on this podcast. He was on the original cast of Top Gear. He then defected and went to Fifth Gear. He then went back to Top Gear. Now he's got his own gig. He's traveling the world. He's driving cars. You can see all of it at tiff.tv and on Amazon Prime. And his new show is called On the Road. It's not even that new. Season 3, though, is where we're at right now. Check it out on Amazon Prime and enjoy this episode of the Smoking Tire Podcast with Tiff Needell. Let's hit it. Okay, cool. All right. And radio. Tiff. Hello, Tiff.
Good afternoon or morning, whichever side of the pod.
It would be morning. Yeah, morning for us, afternoon for you. And this is a real treat. I really appreciate it.
Nice of you to say.
Yeah. Where are you calling from today?
From home, from my little office at home. And it's a lovely quiet part of England. It's in the countryside, but it's raining. It's England. It's raining. I presume you've got Baywatch girls on the beach. The sun's bursting out of the sky. The surfers are out with the early morning waves, are they?
Yes, I'm going to get into my yellow Ford Ranger and hit the beach right after this, actually. Yeah, no, we seem to be on quite the roll. We had James May in studio last week.
I saw that, yeah.
I think now we'll have to make a go of we'll get every Top Gear and Fifth Gear personality on the show.
Well, but bizarrely, I saw he was doing a tweet on Santa Monica Boulevard on the beach, on the pier.
Yeah.
And I was there 5 months ago. So we've both actually been on Santa Monica Beach in the last 5 months. But unfortunately, I didn't link up with you while I was there.
Well, I mean, this was a major oversight on your part and will obviously have to be rectified the next time you're on Santa Monica. What were you doing there?
My wife would have said, we're on holiday, vacation for you, we're on holiday. What are you doing? Where are you going for an afternoon? No, I want to go to visit Hollywood Hills and, I don't want to go and visit a couple of, tire smokers. No.
Oh, you did. So you did touristy things while you were here.
Oh,
Is that what you were really?
A touristy trip. We were heading for the tennis. My wife's a tennis, and she'd never been to San Francisco or Los Angeles, so we did the whole San Francisco. Pacific Highway, of course, still blocked. Is it finally open? I think finally it's open. So we have to go inland.
Yeah. It's not open all the way through. We just had Car Week at Pebble Beach, and the whole car world, or a lot of us go up there, and we didn't get to do the whole drive all the way through because it's still blocked.
Not open.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not. And it may be a while, hopefully for next year. Did you get a good car while you were here to drive?
No,
Did someone lend you something?
I had an SUV, I rented an SUV. I always go the simple way. I always think complicated. Every time you get a favour from someone, it's a complicated favour. And I did approach Ford, but we flew into San Francisco and flew out of LA, so that would have been a problem.
The one-way thing.
So we just went for a nice cheap SUV, get the high up. The wife likes the high viewing, which everybody loves their stupid SUVs for the... instead of sitting low where you should be sitting.
I know. Do you like an American SUV?
I don't like any SUVs. So America started it. So in fact, I blame your country for bringing the horrible things over to Europe.
Range Rover.
Zach, that's
Rover.
A good point.
Yeah.
I think Range Rover may have done it. I mean, we had Willys, right? We had Willys, although those were small.
Jeeps.
If they had stayed as industrial as we made them, they wouldn't be as popular.
That's
so
true.
I blame Britain and Range Rover.
That's true. It's England's fault for making them so damn comfortable. If they made them like us and they had beach chairs for seats.
For people listening and not watching, Tiff is trying to pull away from his argument.
But how did Range Rover survive those early boxes? They were catapulting over the middle of central reservations. The old elk test for whatever company.
Yeah.
The moose
test. Yeah.
Yeah, the Moose. Well, the Range Rovers were lethal. The old ones, if you got a tank slapper on, you were rolling over and over very quickly.
Yeah, and the A-pillars were like toothpicks. It was not. It wasn't going to go well.
Are there moose in Britain? Could they just ignore that test?
No, we have deer. We have deer, which leap out, but they're not quite as big, so they don't do so much. But then we have a lot of deer problem, and we're not culling deer like we used to 50, 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people killed with deer coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah, it's like a real problem.
Small, you hit them at 60 miles an hour. They're only the size of a small sheep, but they hurt.
We were just at the Pebble Beach Concourse. There was a display of the Queen's Range Rovers. It was the first time that SUVs had ever been displayed on the lawn at Pebble Beach, and they were very proud of it. They had the whole range of parade cars going back to like the 1950s, and then they had that one newish Range Rover that had like the weird like dog hood ornament on it that she put on it. Remember that thing?
Yeah, well, I don't particularly remember. No, but God rest her soul. She was a wonderful monarch. She was absolutely a wonderful monarch.
She liked driving, and that's pretty cool. Yeah. By Queen standards, that's pretty cool, right? So, I mean, look, I can't squander this opportunity. So let's talk about real cars and racing. I mean, you had an unbelievable a variety, a huge variety. Some of the cars you raced were just crazy, like Metro 6R4s and in Rallycross and 956s and 962s and open wheel cars. And you were in a Hesketh at one point. Some Aston Martin called a Nimrod. I mean, just a crazy stuff. What is your favorite car that you've ever raced?
Oh, I really don't know. But it's been such an amazing career, as you said. The beauty of it in some ways is that I didn't get to the top of Formula One, because I often feel sorry for them sometimes, because they just get the same Grand Prix circuits for 20 years, And of course, I didn't earn the millions of pounds that Nigel Mansell did. But, I had so many wonderful experiences, when I raced in Macau and in Hong Kong, the street circuit there, and Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. And I've done Daytona 24 Hours, of course. I did the first Miami street race. So I've been around the world having so much wonderful time. And in fact, you're looking at the winner of the 1983 Bangalore Grand Prix.
Ooh.
I know. Nice.
You should. I hope you have a T-shirt that says that you wear everywhere you go. Yeah.
But no, the favourite car has to be the car I sat on the back row of the grid for the 1980, Belgian Grand Prix. It was a shit of a Grand Prix car. It was a right back of the grid car, but the fact that it got me without any sponsorship ever, on talent alone, to sit on a Grand Prix grid. That car is still immensely special. And if I sat on the back row of the grid along with Emerson Fittipaldi, one of my schoolboy heroes. So
no way.
I still remember when the mechanics left, I started the car up, boom, but it happened in about a week, so it was still a shock that I was even on the grid. But, I was going, me? Emerson Fittipaldi, me? Emerson Fittipaldi.
You have a little bit of imposter syndrome going on, yeah?
Yeah, that was wonderful. But in those days, of course, 30 cars used to turn up, and only the fastest 24 got on the grid, so I just had to qualify it first, which was a big thing. But I was only substituting for an engine driver, and the bugger got better, and that was the end of a very short Grand Prix career.
So for you, it was about the car that put you in that situation.
I think
what about, let's say, dynamically enjoyable to actually drive the car? What was your favorite car to actually drive?
A March 782 BMW powered Formula 2 car.
Okay.
1978, and the whole point of it, why it was so enjoyable, was the end of the world before ground effect was discovered.
Oh, so it's loose.
Being a driver, it's loose.
Yeah.
It's driver orientated. Now these guys are understeering around everywhere with these huge, juggernauts of Grand Prix cars. And look at
Zach's got a photo of it. Look at that, and what a great color scheme on it as well,
Beautiful.
Isn't it? What a pretty
That's probably
car.
A Formula Pacific car. Because I actually raced against them in Macau. That's probably a Formula Pacific, I'd imagine. Unless you've actually got a Formula 2. Oh, no, it says Formula 2.
It says Formula 2 right there, driven by Joe Gartner in the 1980 Formula 2.
Sadly died. I came on the podium with him in a Porsche at Silverstone just a few weeks before he was sadly killed at Le Mans in a Porsche 962. So I know Joe very well.
It's for sale in England right now at Gerard & Co. So you could take it home. If you wanted.
So
man,
good.
that is
so
a pretty
simple,
car.
Wow. And cross-ply tyres. There were two great things that happened about 79. We went to radials, became big with Pirelli first and Michelin. which reduces slip angles, especially the original radials were just horrible. They only braked to the straight line, accelerated or turned. You couldn't do both at the same time. Any slip angle and you were spinning. So ground effect coming in and cross-ply tires getting phased out changed driving styles quite a lot. Changed the sort of, just the float, as you've said.
Well, actually, it's so interesting that you bring that specific thing up. We were just doing a show last week, and my good friend Travis Sikulski was going to go to the Monterey Historics, and he was going to drive an M1 Pro car in the race. And he was racing against like all these guys in these 935s. I don't know how it went, but it was an uphill battle. But he was talking about cross-ply, as we call them, bias ply, slick tires, right? And I've driven on old tires, and I've driven on new tires, and I've driven on new slicks, but I've never driven on a bias ply slick. So can you tell me really how it feels in the driver's seat, the difference between a bias ply slick and a modern slick?
Well, just simply that you feel more and more like you're driving the car rather than sort of waiting for something to happen.
Okay.
You're on top of it. It's responding. It's so much more responsive, to the steering and to the oversteer, the understeer. And the thing was, you could drive around a problem setup. As I say, going back to a driver's car, as soon as the cars got more and more technical, I remember I raced a Formula Ford in the 90s for Top Gear Television, a modern Formula Ford, because by then it would change. Great then, now small slick tires on everything, but the cars were so high tech that I tested the car one week and we went to the next track and it was supposed to be the same car, and I just couldn't go around the corners, Brands Hatch. You just understood everything. I couldn't do anything. And the guys then sort of changed the preload and the pull rods, which we never had in my day, by 2 millimeters. I went out and the car was quick again. And it's just ridiculous. You can't drive around problems in modern cars. So that's what really frustrates me, I think, about a modern day ground effect, high tech chassis.
Would you say that was some of your forte back in the day? Because it seemed like you were always driving, underdog machinery, and you didn't have a ton of money to race with. You didn't have really expensive gear. So were you able to drive around problems, and maybe some drivers that had, quote, better cars weren't able to maximize their performance?
Folks, we got to take a quick break for a new sponsor. New sponsor alert, everybody. Get ready to write down this discount code because you are going to love it. Support for today's show comes from GetMaineLobster.com. It is exactly what it sounds like. GetMaineLobster.com. You go to the website and you get Maine lobster. It's exactly what it sounds like. I love lobster. It used to be prison food. Everyone says that. And then all of a sudden, it became fancy schmancy stuff. And it almost makes me want to have been in prison in the 1800s. I'm guessing there were other downsides to prison. The lobster may have been an upside, but there were probably other bad things about prison in the 1800s. But lobster, yummy, and GetMaineLobster.com delivers the freshest lobster tails to your front door, wild caught off the coast of Maine, flash frozen at peak freshness to lock in that breathtaking flavor. GetMaineLobster.com has over 16,000 five-star ratings and is the #1 lobster delivery company in the USA, according to Good Housekeeping. I don't know how many lobster delivery companies there are in the U.S., but being the best is objectively good. You might as well just order from the best, and Get Maine Lobster is it. So whether you're planning a special date night, hosting a celebration, or craving a taste of Maine at home, a little Kenny Bunkport in the crib, George Bush is going to roll up on your front step and paint a lobster. He's in Texas now, but he's from Kenny Bunkport, Maine. Did you know that? I've been there. They have great lobster, and you can get that Maine lobster in your home. Elevate your next meal with GetMaineLobster.com and experience the taste that's trusted by thousands of seafood lovers across the country. They've got sustainability as well. They know that traceability and sustainability are important to preserving Maine lobsters. If you do that now, you get more Maine lobsters later, protecting that resource today, ensuring that future generations can enjoy this delicious flavor. Go to GetMaineLobster.com and use promo code TIRE to get 10% off all orders plus free shipping. That's GetMaineLobster.com, promo code TIRE for 10% off and free shipping. GetMaineLobster.com. Do it. We're also brought to you today by Thesis. Now, let's talk about procrastination. You know, it's the thing that we do when we have a million things to do, but we end up watching YouTube videos like this one after YouTube video instead. Well, here's what I've found to kick procrastination to the curb. And listen, I am objectively a productive human. I'm probably in one of the higher. I'm not even going to be shy about this. There's things that I hate about myself. One of them is not laziness, but I still have trouble starting things. You know, I get overwhelmed with stuff and like shut down. And so Thesis is a new thing. It's a brain boosting supplement made with natural ingredients, proven in clinical studies to support faster reaction times, speed up mental activation, and help improve concentration. Thesis helps you get through your to-do list and remember where you parked your car in the short term, while also supporting your cognitive health in the long term. And for a limited time, our listeners can save $60 on their first subscription order with code TIRE at takethesis.com. That's $60 off your first order at takethesis.com with promo code TIRE. Here's how it works. You go to takethesis.com. and then you fill out a quick questionnaire. I did it. It takes like 3 minutes. It's like multiple choice. It's what are you good at? What are you bad at? What do you want help with? What could you improve with? It's very straightforward, right? You do the quiz, and then they send you a package that has an optimized nootropic supplement in there that is designed to help you achieve your mental goals. It could be your productivity, it could be well-being, your presence, your energy, your memory, etc., etc. Now, they want me to talk about my experience, and I'm going to be honest with you here, folks. I just got it in the mail. Like literally yesterday. So I can't say just yet how it has helped me. What I can tell you is the quiz was very easy. Okay. It gave me a customized setup, and it arrived on time, exactly what I thought. I've taken one. It was tasty. It wasn't like a gross medicine-y taste. It's like a little, what do you call it? Like a little energy shot, like a little bottle of liquid. Tasted pretty good, and I look forward to sharing the results with you, hopefully in a future Thesis ad. I don't want to like lie and say I feel wildly different because I've taken one. But when I get through the package, I will then update you on how I feel. I need better like long-term memory. Like I have trouble remembering people that I met a couple months ago and stuff like that. And I always get so busy, and at least once a week I have like, oh, I forgot to do that one thing. And so that's really what I want help with, plus stress and just general presence. So you can do it yourself too. Take the free 3-minute quiz to find out what your brain needs. Go over to takethesis.com. Use code TIRE to save $60 off your first subscription order when you sign up for Thesis. That's $60 off your first order at takethesis.com. Promo code TIRE. Maximize your mind with Thesis today. Now, back to the show.
Yeah, I'm sure of it. I mean, I think it was much more of a driver's day before, up until about 1980. Ronnie Peterson, so famous for being a bit of an oversteer. He would go and share cars with drivers in sports cars racing. Of course, Grand Prix drivers, he did a lot of that in the 70s. And he would go to a regular team, be the third driver at Le Mans, or the third driver at Daytona or something, or Sebring. And he would just drive it. He would never complain about the handling or the setup. And if he didn't like it, he would just drive round and change his driving style to suit what the car was doing. And that's the huge twist, that you just can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Unless you change the car, you're just stuck in a groove. And the car, so many Grand Prix drivers now moan about, the car doesn't suit my handling, it doesn't suit me, Perez uses this all the time. Sainz uses it. Ricciardo used it a lot at McLaren. It just doesn't suit my driving style. Well, change your fucking driving style.
Yeah, people talk about that's the difference between Sergio and Max. Like if they have two different styles, and Max can maximize, no pun intended, that car, but Sergio Perez can't do it.
But what I can't understand at the highest level is why. Well, why can't your engineer turn it more into your car? If you don't like understeer, Max has got oversteer. Max loves an instant turn in. He gets the car in, and then he's on the throttle. He's gone. Whereas that was too nervy for other drivers and Perez. They felt like about to spin off, I guess. But, we'll put a bit more rear wing on. I mean, in simplistic terms.
Right.
Yeah, you hear
why can't you just give Perez a bit more wing, and then it would suit him, or give him toe in or toe out, or give him different spring rates? So, why can't you turn a Red Bull, well, that's designed primarily for maxing settings? I can't understand why the engineers of the modern day can't adjust a modern Grand Prix car to suit different driving styles.
It's clearly because of the budget cap. It's clearly they don't have enough money.
They spend money on catering.
They need more money. The catering is completely out of control. Do you find that I don't hear those types of car criticisms as much from sports car drivers, from GT car drivers? Maybe it's because the cars are more flexible to begin with.
And the modern hypercars are actually a bit of a pain. I spoke to one of the drivers, I won't name his name now, but a Ferrari driver. And he says, you're making about 6 or 7 adjustments every lap around Le Mans.
Whoa.
So every corner, it's almost got a different setup of your diff and your, I don't know what, the hypers and the hybrids and the regens and the traction. They got traction control, of course,
Yeah.
So you're very much operating modern, I use that word, instead of driving.
Right.
Formula One's the same. You see them on their buttons all the time. I'd lose a second a lap if I started speaking on the radio. I'm starting to adjust my brake balance from one corner to the next, as Verstappen and the boys do. They're turning it to different settings for a different style of corner.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's why I think these guys have so much fun when they're doing vintage racing and they're just getting in, at Goodwood or Monterey or whatever. Yeah. I mean, Jensen is out there like wheeling this C-Type and like it looks like he's putting in a lot of work, but compared to what you have to do flicking switches in an F1 or a Le Mans lap, it's actually it's less work.
He's just adjusting the steering wheel.
Yeah, it's only one thing.
We've got Goodwood in 2 weeks' time. I'll be out in a 1958 Lister Nobly Chevrolet.
And you had a big stint with Lister for a minute, right? Weren't you racing Storms?
Yeah, the Lister Storm at Daytona Beach.
Crazy car, the Lister Storm. That thing is wild.
All the drivers that come in. Karun Chandhok is actually one of the best modern sort of Grand Prix commentators, drivers, ex-driver now. He's always talking. He loves driving the old car. There it is.
Look at that. That's just fantastic.
That's a Jaguar. I think the Chevrolet's got a bigger hood at the front. Body, I should have said. I'm already gone American already. A hood. I said a hood.
You said a hood.
Country down.
Listen, we won't tell anybody. It's all right.
Karun does really great commentary on F1. He does it on the intercooler, but it's like he can distill 2-3 months of racing and problems down to one article. It's great.
Yeah. And he speaks out about how the modern cars are, horrible things, even though he's in the bubble. Because nowadays, commentators and journalists, they tend to now sort of feature, there are Formula 2 journalists or Formula 3. Each sort of formula, IndyCar or whatever, has got its own journalist. And the journalists you fear are probably having their expenses paid by the organisation that runs that formula. And they all love their formula. I mean, there's a journalist that loves Formula E, which is absolutely beyond my comprehension completely for anybody.
If your mortgage payments depend on it.
Exactly.
I understand. There's a fellow podcaster that is incredibly pro-EV to what might be described as a level that is beyond belief. And let's just say there's a reason.
He goes on some good trips, does he? He's always first on the list of all exotic Formula E. But it is the show. I mean, even now, the commentators in general, the society in general now, you have everything has to be lovely.
Yeah.
Radio DG on BBC, on the record today, the brilliant, lovely, gorgeous, with the most fantastic new album out, followed by the most lovely, brilliant, gorgeous. And the brilliant, gorgeous person gets interviewed about the film they made. I was acting, of course, and alongside me, my co-star was the brilliant, gorgeous, wonderful. And when we're starting races and commentaries and everything now, even the Olympics was the same. Everything before the event, the commentators always say, "We've got a brilliant race coming up."
Yeah. What if it's shit?
You got brilliant. Yeah. They always say this, and it would be so much.
It would definitely make the highlight reel if someone was like, "I expect this race to be total shit."
Well, we have a little Love Cars on the Road podcast on Monday nights, but it's only a motorsport thing. We don't go just Formula One, and I do all around the world. We go around the world. In fact, I've ended my last podcast on Monday nights previewing IndyCar at Portland and saying what a shit circuit it is, and it'd be a very boring race. I've actually said that.
Do you like IndyCar?
I follow NASCAR. Yeah, I love NASCAR, IndyCar. Yeah, I'm the most obsessed NASCAR, IndyCar fan in Britain, I think. And we talk about these formula on the little podcast on Monday nights. And with IndyCar and NASCAR, I predict this will be a boring race, you know. If this is the first race you're going to watch, I warn you, this one may be dull. You know?
Maybe wait till next week. Come back and check us out.
And don't start with Monaco.
Other than the half of Daytona, have you done much oval racing?
No, none at all. So it's the only thing I missed out. I mean, I've driven around Charlotte with a petty instructor taking me faster and faster, and I thought, bloody hell, this is quick. And so again, having driven a NASCAR, it was at Charlotte, you know, because we were filming for Top Gear, and they knew I'd been a racing driver and stuff. They let me have a kid, you know, lead me. And all this, you know, holding the wheel, turning right down the straights, and then rolling off the throttle because you haven't got a diff at the back on the overrun, and then, you know, putting in the power progressively. And there's so much to those NASCAR, and that was, you know, 20 years ago. But now they're probably too scientific now, because now they're dreadingly talking about air wash. We got air wash in NASCAR now.
Yeah. And
you can't get close, you know, without the air wash, and so you can't overtake any more in NASCAR because we've got too much aero.
But do you think, like, you know, once the car is set up for NASCAR, I mean, they can change a few things in the pit, but they can't change things live really like they do with F1. Do you feel like NASCAR, or maybe V8 Supercar, is closer to the driving you did in Grand Prix, where you're just managing the car on the track?
Absolutely. IndyCar, I love IndyCar. You know, they always say it's a spec formula, you know, so there's no challenge. But, you know, you still have to have the best engineers. You look at Penske around ovals and just dominating, you know.
Yeah.
Even they've got a little help from the organisers and the rule makers as well. But we won't mention that slight scandal of Newgarden and things like that. Who got away with it. But, you know, I love watching the IndyCar. All the dabs of opposite lock on board, you know, they haven't got any power steering, the fact the car's snapping. You can see the car alive in their hands.
Yeah.
And of course, without power steering, even if it's just the bumps on the road, it makes the steering wheel jump, you know.
It's got to be exhausting to drive.
Here's Lewis Hamilton, you know, on the limit, catching the leader, breaking the lap record. He comes to the corner, going into the corner, flat middle, out to the corner. And I hate the fact they can change down as they turn in, because that's a skill, you know. All these skills.
Yeah.
You see them turning it down.
How many people on the grid right now do you think can drive stick?
Up again. And it just looks as dull as anything, you know. It looks too easy to drive. You know?
Well, if you go watch, you know, one of, you know, the most famous video probably is, you know, Senna's Monaco lap on board. You know, he's driving one-handed, you know, with an H-pattern gearbox. It's unbelievable to watch that.
I know.
How many drivers on the grid of F1 right now do you think cannot drive a manual transmission at all? There's at least one.
They've been in a rental car. I'm sure they've had a rental car.
Rental cars aren't manual anymore. Where have you been?
Still kind of in Europe.
In Europe. I guess in Europe. Okay.
But actually, mate, talk about Senna gear change. It's quite a funny little tiny story. When I was racing in Macau, I'd done Formula Atlantic, Pacific, and had some good runs. But I was in the Formula 3 race, the first Formula 3 race, because I was racing in Japan for a Group C team, and they said, "Do you want a Formula 3 car for Macau?" So I said, "Well, why not?" And Senna was out there in the Marlboro Roll. He was dominating that year. And the team boss, Team Oja, this Japanese guy, knew nothing about driving or skills. He was just the money boss, and he liked the sport. He liked having a drink and a smoke and going and watching his teams win. And he just, after qualifying, I think,
Sounds all right.
He'd been down at the first corner at the end of the huge long straight. And he said, Tiff-san, this Senna-san, I listened to him braking. He changed gear like nobody else. So a guy that knew very little about driving skills and spotted, even he had a 30 Formula 3 cars all blatting round and round, could hear a difference, a smoothness, you know, in the downshifts and the heel and toe and the blipping of the throttle. And
That's
that was
so cool.
one of the great skills. You know, that was one of the great skills. And you had to have all those skills of changing gear and blipping throttles. And, you know, the Formula 1 in 1980 I drove, we didn't have a rev limiter. And I can't believe myself. You know,
wow.
You know, the computers nowadays. One little miss of that little flick of your wrist when you're changing up. Valves are bent and your race is over.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's why reliability was so low. And that's something that made Grand Prix racing better, maybe, to watch in the 50s, 60s, 70s, is the cars broke down, you know.
Yeah.
So Whereas now we're alive,
in frequently spectacular ways.
Yeah.
Well, they
The
still
old
break
days,
down
watching-
now.
Well, yeah, but not
Ferrari F1 cars do at least.
No, now they
And
just have like
watching
a little
Jim-
puff
Jim-
of smoke and they go box, and that's the end
That's
of
true.
it.
Sometimes
Yeah, they
it's
don't
that.
like.
And the driver's going, well, why? What's the problem? I haven't got any problems. Shut the engine off.
Something that's always
we're
interesting is-
retiring the car.
Is like a driver will call in and say, I feel like I'm losing power, and they'll say, we're checking on it, and then it's like they reset the computer and then it's back again.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen all the time, but that is so strange to me.
Yeah.
Well, I remember Hamilton when he pretty much lost the title in 2021. I think it was the same year as that year. We won't talk about that though. Was his engine exploded in Brazil, wasn't it? It was huge flame. It was a proper blown up motor when he was leading.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was Brazil, and I'm sure it was that year. But now it was a
Zach will find
shock
it.
for everyone that someone was cruising to a win, and the engine blew up. And of course, when we watched Jim Clark and Graham Hill and Ferraris, even if someone had a 20-second lead with 5 laps to go, I think I can hear a bit of a misfire, and I could think, you never knew the car was going to go the distance.
Yeah.
Although it was cruel on the drivers, it was an element that made the spectator always on the edge of your seat until the bloody car actually finished.
That's true. I think the real-time telemetry and the ability not just to see the car from the pits, but then to make two-way communication with the car. It does take away some of the excitement for sure.
Unplug it all.
Yeah, you can't talk once the
it.
green flag starts. You can't change anything else anymore. Yeah, but to talk about just back with with Senna's downshifting technique. I mean, again, the fact that some of the things were on video. I mean, of course the iconic Acura NSX loafers and white socks pedal cam video. So many of us learned to heel toe drive using that video. It's still pretty much a benchmark.
I learned on my mum's Morris 1000 in 1969 when I had to pass my driving test, and the synchromesh had gone. I had to double declutch and heel and toe on my driving test at age 17.
Were they impressed?
I think he had to be. He didn't say it, but I knew he was really.
He's just like, pass. And you're like, but don't, but that was amazing. You didn't see that?
Pass underlined.
Yeah. Watch this one. Let's talk about Top Gear and television and Fifth Gear and all this. You're part of the original old school Top Gear.
Yeah.
And then moved on to Fifth Gear. When they started coming out with 6-speed gearboxes, that must have been like, ooh, we didn't see this one coming.
Yeah, that wasn't good for Fifth Gear. But Top Gear, I didn't want to be a TV presenter. I was all my racing. I was trying to do side jobs like writing track tests for Autosport magazine, commentating alongside Murray Walker, to get my name around more, to drive more cars, and it was only because Chris Goffey broke his ankle and they had nobody to drive this Formula First racing car that they phoned me up, because I've been commentating with Murray, so they knew my phone number and the BBC knew of my voice. And so I just came down for this one-off, And again, literally talking about what I've just talked about, because I thought it looked too easy driving racing cars. That's why in that Formula First item, I deliberately kicked it sideways. And I thought, opposite lock, and talk, I'm on the limit, And the BBC producers couldn't believe that apparently I was about to crash at every corner. I was talking quite calmly at the same time. So it was
That's so
the ability
interesting.
to talk
I never
and,
thought that you may have actually invented driving for television. I mean, it's because it's a truth that like sliding looks fast even if it's slow, and it's so hard to make a car look fast if you're not sliding. Yeah. But there was a point before which where people didn't do that, and so if maybe you were actually the first person to invent that.
I've claimed this in Europe, but maybe in America you can check it out. But I think I was the first person to do smoking tires on television. It was a very famous one of the BMW M5s. I'm going back to early 90s. Like this huge round on and on, huge power slide with a real high camera angle that somebody remembers. You have to go Google all those Top Gear items from Tiff BMW. And so I think I probably was the first to start drifting production road cars, for entertainment on telly.
I'd put that on a T-shirt too, right alongside 1983 Macau Grand Prix or whatever.
But of course, the mid-90s in Top Gear were brilliant, because Jeremy came along about a year after me. They were trying to change the program anyway, so my arriving and them deciding, right, now we've got a racing driver that can drive fast and talk. And then someone spoke to this tall, thin, lanky twit that seemed to be quite comedic, and we got him on with his curly hair. He's filled out a bit since.
Oh,
those
yeah,
days,
but
and
the early afro though, the Clarkson,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
the
yeah,
black
yeah.
leather jacket and the
Yeah.
afro, that
Oh,
was primo.
Then he got his mate Quentin Wilson along to talk a lot of bollocks about second-hand cars, and that's when it really took off. The three of us in the mid-90s, we had about 6 million watching in the mid-90s, you know. But sadly for me, you know, Jeremy decided he wanted to go off and be a chat show host, and then Quentin wanted to go off and sell cars on the internet or something. So the figures obviously died off a bit when Jeremy went. And then we had a new producer of BBC Radio, BBC Two television, who didn't really want cars on her vision of BBC Two. It's been an arty thing, BBC Two. It's not really the main hooligan channel.
Yeah.
So she mucked about with the show, dumbed us down, which, you know, that was the phase of dumbing down. The worst, if you ever hear a director or producer say, I'm going to widen our audience.
Oh, no.
Run fast.
Oh,
Run
no.
fast.
Yeah. Guys, got to take one more quick break because winning season is here and it's your time to shine. It's my bookie, baby, and the weekly risk-free boosts, classic, super, and survivor contest. And cashing in has never been easier. Whether you're a seasoned pro or a first-time bettor, there's something for everyone to win big this season. Just hit the link in the show notes or visit my bookie to sign up for free, and you are ready to start winning, baby. Football is back, and my bookie's here to make sure you're ready to cash in on the action because MyBookie is pulling out all the stops with incredible promotions like weekly risk-free boosts on Thursdays where you can bet without a sweat. If your bet hits, you win big, and if it doesn't, forget it. MyBookie will refund your wager. You hear that, folks? Risk-free boosts on Thursdays. But that's just the beginning. MyBookie is giving away hundreds of thousands in prizes with their Super, Survivor, and Squares contests. Get your entries in now for your shot at huge cash rewards. So when you're ready to get started, use promo code TIRE to claim a bonus that doubles your money up to $2,000. That's a 100% bonus on your very first deposit. You heard that right. Double your money with promo code TIRE before you even place a bet. And now loyalty pays off with MyBookie Plus. The more you play, the more you win. It's simple. Climb through tiers of the loyalty rewards program to unlock even more epic promotions, exclusive giveaways, and bigger rewards. MyBookie Plus is the lock of the century. Bet on anything, anywhere, anytime, and make your season a winning season at MyBookie and use code TIRE to double your money up to $2,000 on your very first deposit. Do it! Also brought to you today by Factor. We love Factor, and I will tell you why I love Factor. It's because even though I'm a little bit overweight, you know how I got that way, or let's just say one of the ways, is by forgetting to eat. And you know what? You're probably going, well, that doesn't make sense. If you ate less, you wouldn't be so fat. But the truth is, if you don't eat before you're hungry, or right as you're getting hungry, you end up going a little crazy, getting too hungry, and making bad decisions. That could be eating unhealthy food. It could be overeating. It could be eating whatever's around. It's just not good for you. But Factor is great. Why? Because their no prep, no mess meals are always going to be in your fridge. Thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with calorie smart, protein plus keto options, and more, Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals right at that point when you're starting to get hungry. Right? They've got 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week, so you're always going to have new flavors to explore. You can crush your wellness goals, and you can make your whole day delicious. Breakfast to dessert, stay fueled with easy, nutritious options. There's restaurant-quality meals featuring premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, and blackened salmon. And, of course, your shopping time, your cooking time, your prep time, and your cleanup are all kept to a minimum. So if you're busy, you can get back to your life. Head over to factormeals.com/tire50 and use code tire50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code tire50 at factormeals.com/tire50 to get 50% off your first box and 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. And now, back to the program.
I was told to untuck my shirt and put gel in my hair, and I was like, do we have to have all these numbers? Naught to what? Do we need all those numbers? So I mean, we started doing silly scripts, you know, and of course we lost the core audience. Then left, so you know, because we insulted our core audience.
Yeah.
And then she shut us down. I mean, not a lot of people know it was actually taken off air. Full stop. It was over.
Yeah.
In fact, James May always hides from the fact that he was one of the presenters who was sacked about 2 years before it died. He was brought in to be a new Jeremy, and he did one season, and the producer's wife didn't like him, and so he was kicked off again. So
That's
he's
hilarious.
He keeps quiet about that.
Well, Zach and I worked on a cable show here in America, and it was the producer did try to, you know, they hired all these really smart people who knew about cars, and then didn't listen to any of them, and tried to have, you know, like random celebrities and make it all pop culture-y. And it did not last long at all. It was you need to engage your core audience, and then maybe work outward from there using personality. But yeah,
actually, funny enough, the Top Gear, the next Top Gear, obviously, which took off so massively. Hammond was also involved in these stories. So first we got James May, who was dumped. And then Hammond had tried twice already to audition for Top Gear. He was doing this other cable network television, Men and Motors or something like that. And I actually voted for him in about 2000, it was. But he didn't get the gig. He went to Simpson. So again, for the third time, he'd been turned down from his dream job, went home, probably got pissed because he used to like getting pissed, and probably smashed up a bit of furniture because he used to smash things up. but the bizarre thing is, when you think about it, because I then created Fifth Gear. So in the year 2001, when they took Top Gear off air, I went to all the team in BBC Birmingham that made Top Gear and said, well, look, let's get another channel. It's only like 2 researchers and 2 directors and 2 presenters. So when I met a former producer of Top Gear who was in the private sector, and so we went to Chrysalis Television, which is now North One, and said, would you like Top Gear? We can bring the whole team. So literally, they all left the BBC and went to Channel 5 to create, they loved the idea, and they called it obviously Fifth Gear, tongue in cheek. But the weird thing about history is, if James hadn't been sacked and Hammond had got that job, they would both have been on Top Gear when it shut down, and would both have joined me on Fifth Gear.
Wow.
That's crazy.
And so Richard Hammond, for his 3 times depressed going home to say, I haven't got the Top Gear job, was pretty lucky looking back at things.
Yeah.
I think he came out quite well from not getting that Top Gear job in 2000 or 2001.
That's pretty funny. Never give up, kids.
How fate moves you. You never know which way you're going to turn, really.
Yeah. And when you guys, I mean, what was the relationship like? Not with the host, but with the defectors, not defectors because you were sacked and then you went off to continue. Between that and the new Top Gear, because obviously you appeared on the new Top Gear a whole bunch throughout the years.
Yeah, absolutely. The odd little people. Well, originally, because we did these live shows called the MPH shows, which eventually gradually became the Top Gear show.
Top Gear Live,
show, stadium stuff. So initially, when we were doing Fifth Gear and Top Gear had just returned, we did these live shows. It was me against Top Gear. So all the races and events and stupid things we were doing, it was often Top Gear versus Fifth Gear. So we were very level pegging for the first 3 or 4 years. I think they were up to about 2.5. We still had less, because you're on Channel 5. We only had 1.5 million or 2, and they were back to pretty much what Top Gear was when they shut it down. No, not big numbers at all. And they eventually got up to about 3.5 million. And then the first show back, after the hamster banged his head slightly, they got 8 million on the first show. So
after the rocket car crash, yeah.
So 4 million people had never even seen the show, weren't interested in it. But all of a sudden, every housewife in Britain wanted to hug the hamster.
So funny. Hamster. I didn't. Wow. In America, we never got it broadcast, right? So we had both. Yeah. There was a website called Final Gear, very creatively named. Do you know about Final Gear?
I've heard it. Yeah, I have heard of it. Yeah.
So it was a Top Gear and Fifth Gear enthusiast site. And they would scrape the episodes from television and put them on the internet for us to download. This was like, I don't think there was overlap with YouTube, but it was not part of YouTube. You had to use torrents to download
way
them.
Before that.
And so for basically all of our, my 20s, that's how I would watch both Top Gear and Fifth Gear. So, but and I knew about his crash and all that, but the ratings of the show and what was going on with the audience watching in the UK, we had no idea. We were just like, these are the awesome car shows that we just download every week.
My advice to you is to try and kill yourself, half kill yourself. Get across media, have Matt at your bedside crying, is he going to pull through?
Let's get a rocket car.
Get some bigger. But it's funny. It was brilliant getting Jeremy back, because that's what he does best with cars. He got lost a bit doing his chat shows and other things. And he actually made another little car show, I'm back. And that didn't really take off either. So, but that,
some of his solo DVDs were fun though. I liked some of Jeremy's
I worked
DVDs.
On those. I did those. Yeah, his Christmas DVD. I was quite often put on those and mucking about with him. So the competition between Top Gear and Fifth Gear was ultimately friendly and fun, right? It wasn't really absolutely, because we were doing tweets about someone tried to burn down their workshop. They blamed us or something. There was a fire in their studio. So we got blamed. It was Fifth Gear.
I love the internet.
That's
ridiculous.
Crazy. Didn't you also get to drive the one of the double-decker challenges with where the car on top has the steering? And no, was that not you? I thought there was a Top Gear versus Fifth Gear.
No, I did.
You did?
Yes, we did. Yes.
I know your career better than yours.
Look, I've driven so many things. I've lost myself. I can't remember what I've done. But I did enjoy watching it. I was so jealous of not being on it because the budget. That was the other thing with the budget, because when they were shutting down my Top Gear, I was on like $200 a day or something, £200 a day. I was earning about $30,000 a year as a Top Gear presenter at 2000. Yeah. People think you're on telly, you're earning millions.
Oh yeah.
But when Jeremy was approached, to do the new Top Gear, because they went to the BBC with the idea and with Wilman, and it was, I don't want to go to Birmingham ever again. I want my own airstrip in Surrey. I want a studio. I want a helicopter every day. And the budget just spiraled because, I think the producer at the top of BBC Two sort of had to come out with something spectacular to sort of blow away the fact that we actually put posters up outside BBC head office saying the Top Gear team has moved to Channel 5. So there was a bit sort of underneath, there was a bubbling furore of unhappy BBC people. So she obviously agreed to whatever Jeremy wanted, and she had to send one of her hoods down to his house in Oxfordshire and hose £50 notes to his front door, and only when he's up to his nose in filthy money, only when he's standing in the attic of his mansion, did he? Okay, I'll come back now. All right.
Swimming in the vault of money like Scrooge McDuck. Yeah.
But of course, for the BBC, it worked brilliantly because they sold that program around the world. It became, the old Top Gear I was on, I kept on going to hotels in somewhere, wherever around the world. The old BBC overseas, I'd see Top Gears then. Yeah. But as the sort of financial value of telly grew and grew, they were making a fortune selling it around the world. And in fact, Wilman used to go in every year because he was always over budget by miles. So he used to say the accountant would call me in and say, "Well, Andy, look, you're $2 million over budget." So he'd say, "And?"
Oh man, that's the life.
So,
well,
what are we gonna do about it?
Now you and the boys are together again on Amazon Prime with
Yes.
You've Got Love Cars.
I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, Amazon Prime.
I say go get it. It's on streaming right now. For the Love of Cars is on Amazon Prime.
It's on the road.
On the road.
On the road. It's fun because it's the Love Cars bit, which is the YouTube channel. It's a sort of name that doesn't appear when you search on Prime sometimes. It's just On the Road.
On the Road. Okay, there we go. There we go. That's not it. I think that Zach just pulled up the remake of the Kerouac book, which is also on Prime. Yes, it's probably the one with the 6x6 jumping a Tesla. That's probably the right one with you and Paul Woodman. That's on Prime. There we go.
So yeah, that came up, because we produced these two shows on the road for Europe, but we're keen to get around the world and spread the word, as it were. So these are old-ish items. This was finished about 2 years ago. But there's all great stuff on it, and we're obviously the idea of why we get you to get your listeners and viewers to follow us
go
on
watch
Prime.
it. Our pal Ben Collins is on as well.
Yeah, we're looking. Yeah, Ben's part of the presenter lineup again. Lots of different presenters, and so we're looking to try and get a third series commissioned. And this is the thing, we're halfway through, so we need a bit of a boost.
Go download it. Get the
I forget
boost.
what I did half of it. I did a Ford GT in the first series. How many series have you got there? Has it got 1 and 2?
It's got 2.
Series 2.
It's got 1 and 2. Yeah, we don't have a 3.
I think 1 opens with one of my favourite Ford GT stories, which I thought the team made a great job filming, and it came out really well. So
it's the newer Ford GT.
Yeah, the last road going one.
Yeah. Do you like that car?
One
Are
Le
you a
Mans.
fan of that car?
Yeah, on a track it's brilliant. On the road I quite enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty spectacular. I think they did a great job of making a road car. You know,
Yeah.
Obviously, it was designed. The great thing why it was so successful with GT car, it was actually a racing car that they made a road car, which all the other GTs are road cars that have turned into race cars. So
when you drive
Ford
it on the
was always-
street, it feels very much like a homologated race car, which I think is the that's the effect. That's what they're going for. I love the old one, the 2004 to 2006 one is one of my favorite road cars of all time. Terrible race car, but I like
Supercharged
driving.
engine. Was it a supercharged engine?
It was.
You
didn't like it?
No, it felt a bit lardy as well. I don't know. I never quite got on with it.
Maybe you need to drive a modified one because they
Find one that's 2,000 horsepower.
Find one with a 1,500 horsepower because that livens
don't
it up
go there.
quite a bit.
Don't go. No, right. This is another bee in my body. These hypercars and all this rubbish that's coming out now. For photos on a kid's wall, 1,500 horsepower Bugatti Chiron or a Huayra or anything else is fine. But they're ridiculous things to put on public roads. And
I agree with you. I totally agree with you.
A McLaren F1, the greatest supercar ever made, will always be.
In which you still have a speed record, I believe, don't you? At
Yes,
Millbrook
indeed.
or Millbrook?
Millbrook, fastest average speed around a British track on a road car.
There you go.
195. Anyway, the point is that was for an amateur. I mean, it was no computers at all. We had a manual shift, manual gearbox, and wonderful V12 engine, 600, and it was on the edge. You know, that's more than that power. You don't need more than 600 horsepower.
I agree, but do you think I totally agree with you, and I was half joking. I don't really need a Ford GT, but if you tune them up to about 700-800, they are quite a delight. But 1,500, it gets a little silly. But we just, we've driven, especially now with electrification, and we have this insane horsepower race happening where people are expecting 1,000 horsepower out of a sedan, like we just had the Lucid Sapphire, which I don't know if you've tried yet, but it's 8-second quarter miles in a 5-seater sedan. And we got out of it going, you're just selling this to people? Like just to regular people? Like it's kind of wild stuff, right?
What's a Tesla Plaid and things like that, Plaid. I mean,
Plaid.
But
you have to say it like a trashy American. Your accent is not capable of sounding trashy enough to say it. It's plaid. It's very flat.
I wrote a Top Gear column once about how I felt that we should start self-limiting our horsepowers. Because if someone gets run down in a bus, queue of kids by a bus by a young man in a 1,500 horsepower Bugatti Chiron.
Yeah.
Can you imagine when people realise that we've got a 19-year-old allowed to drive that and he's just killed 10 people? Well, hold on a minute. You've let someone drive a 1,500 horsepower, and it would just backfire massively. So
that might be the thing that hasn't happened, I think. Like, was it Japan in the late 90s? I mean, they did the agreement with 270 horsepower, but with motorcycles, there was that horsepower race with the Hayabusa and the ZX14,
and
they all went, we should just, but I think it's probably because people were getting hurt more frequently.
Do you think it's our fault, Tiff?
Yes,
I mean, specifically my fault. Yes, it's specifically. I will tell you, but like magazine tests and television and showing. Yes,
but if my rules, we'd legislate. So supercars, maximum horsepower 650. Saloons, maximum horsepower 500. Front-wheel drive cars, maximum horsepower 300. Right. So that would keep our fast cars without upsetting too many people. Because it was like the Porsche 911. Every new Porsche 911 has to have another 30 horsepower.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So you've had this increase because they have to. It has to have more power than the predecessor. But if the law said you could only have 500 horsepower, then you'd relaunch your new Porsche with the same 500 horsepower, but now doing another 5 miles to the gallon. So then you'd look green and clean, you see? That would be a way of... But it's all lost now. It's all...
Or you make it lighter.
Or they could make it lighter. They could find a way to take weight out of it, which is
I know
great.
these things. A sedan, so going 0 to 60 in 3 seconds in a 2.5-ton car with an amateur driver.
Yeah.
You know, it just terrifies me. You know, because slowing down 2.5 tons, I don't care how much regen you're creating. You're not going to slow down very quickly.
Yeah, we've driven even the very fastest, the highest performance electric sedans that we've driven, like the Lucid Sapphire. I mean, this thing, look, it's not for lack of trying. They've got a new ceramic technology in their rotor. They've got a 10-piston caliper. I mean, it's not for lack of trying. But, you know, slowing that thing down is not easy.
Do you ever do those tests? I mean, someone in Britain used to do an auto car, but nobody seems to have a machine to actually do stopping distances from 100 miles an hour or 60. Do you use one at all? Are any magazines use
Magazines do. Motor Trend and Car and Driver both do braking testing. Yeah. We work at Road.
They must be longer than 5 years ago, aren't they? These heavy, or have they got such good calipers and brakes?
I don't know, Zach. Can you look up a Lucid Sapphire? The one in America is they usually do 70 to 0 is the braking test. They normally do 70 mile an hour. And let's compare a Sapphire to, and I don't want to pick on the Sapphire, but it happens to be the fastest car on the market right now.
And the new M5. You read the new M5 has come out.
Yeah, they were just showing it.
300 kilograms, 2.5 tons.
It's crazy.
It's 700 kilos heavier than the last M5.
It's insane. I know. It's gotten a very lukewarm reception here in the U.S., despite the fact that the touring version is pretty cool looking. Okay, so the Lucid Sapphire did 109 feet to stop from 60 to 0. Okay, so
pretty good. That's like Corvette.
Can we compare that to let's just, I don't know, Porsche 911 something or other?
Yeah,
new
something.
One?
Yeah. Let's see. 2024.
What is this thing? You're talking words. I don't know what car you're talking about.
That was the Lucid Sapphire. Yes.
Who makes it?
Oh, do you not know what Lucid is?
No.
Wow. Sorry. I didn't realize. Lucid is an American company that was started by one of the top people at Tesla, left Tesla and to start this new company. And the cars sort of almost look like a modern take on like a Citroen DS or something.
Okay, nice.
Zach can get a picture of it.
Yeah.
Well, did you have a stopping distance for that?
No, I'm still looking.
Okay,
for that,
but I'll show you. We'll show you what they look like. They're kind of neat looking, and they are incredibly efficient. They have these very efficient motors and very efficient batteries. It is the most aerodynamic car ever produced.
Ooh. Yeah, nice.
And this one you're looking at is called the Sapphire, which has 1,234 horsepower, and it has 3 electric motors, and it will do 0 to 60 in 1.8 seconds, and it will do the quarter mile in 8.8 at 155 miles an hour. And
it'll cost you $2 million.
You are off by such an enormous factor. It is $249,000.
Wow.
I mean, it is. Look, it's a value actually, believe it or not. But it's also, when we drove it, we were staggered that they'll just sell this to people because it's so obscenely fast. So yeah, that's
four-wheel drive.
Yes, it is.
Four-wheel drive.
It is, and it has a very, very cool torque
four-wheel
vectoring
drive.
system.
I'm assuming the new M5 would be four-wheel drive. I don't even change it. But
Yeah, I'm not sure if you can disconnect the front drive in the new M5, but you probably can.
Well,
If you come to America again, I do they'll give you one. So, is that right, Zach?
This is 70 miles per hour, not 60. But this
Oh,
is
it's
2023 911 Turbo.
Okay, so we have a little bit of discrepancy because the 911 Turbo is 139 feet from 70 to 0. We don't have an equal for
How
equal.
long was the other one we had? I forgot.
It was 109 feet, but that was 60 to 0 instead of not
they've
70
obviously got
to
big brakes. They've got big stoppers on it. Then
They do. Yeah,
How much
yeah,
does
they
that
do.
weigh? That thing?
Oh no, here we go. Okay, sorry. We have this. So Porsche 911 Turbo, 139 feet. Lucid Sapphire, 151 feet. So
12.
So 12-foot difference,
12 feet.
and the Sapphire weighs 5,345 pounds. Is very heavy. But that's actually pretty impressive given the weight.
Given the
stuff
M5's weight.
I don't want to drive these things, you see. I don't
No, I don't either.
My classics, I want to be in a Ferrari Dino or something. Any Ferrari or a Lotus Elan. I want to be in something small and nimble and light. Do you have the Alpines in America?
No. It's a tragedy that we do not have them here.
I mean,
I know.
I got in when I had one for a week recently, and just as soon as I drove, it's light, it's alive, and you drive all these heavy things, and they've got no body roll. A lot of the journalists say, it goes around the corners as if it's on rails, it grips, there's no roll. But it's got no roll because it's got truck springs on it to stop the thing bouncing in the ground.
100%.
Amazing shock absorbers to take out all the ripples. But, I mean, they corner flat because they're really heavily sprung.
Yeah.
And the danger is that the body roll, you want a bit of body roll. Body roll is what's telling your body, hold on a minute, things are getting lively.
Yeah.
It's body roll that creates handling. The front rolls under or the back rolls. And so if you don't have any body roll, you don't have any feedback to the human being, who goes around the corner faster and faster and faster until they just understeer into the truck coming the other way.
I totally agree with you. The body roll creates that gray area between grip and slip where things are fun. I totally agree with you. And look, we still have a few cars that offer that, but fewer and fewer, and it's very sad. You know what had good body roll? We just had our new friend Dario Franchitti was over here, and they wouldn't let us drive, but he took us up one of our favorite roads in the T50 in the Gordon Murray car.
Yeah.
Body roll.
Doing the promo.
Yeah. It's $3 million, and the thing's got body roll. I mean, it's fantastic.
Look at my famous McLaren F1 on Top Gear. The thing looks like it's 2 feet off the ground. It's rolling.
Yeah, they had a lot of roll.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, they all got traction control, not hydraulic, anti-skid stuff on these things. So the trouble is the traction and the ESP and stuff is now so good, you don't feel it working.
Yeah.
The old days, traction controls were sort of, it would stop you. But now you can feel like you're Max Verstappen. You floor the throttle, and the computer says where you could have 100 horsepower an hour, 200 horsepower an hour, 600 horsepower. And if it starts understeering, the brakes will come on and tuck the nose in.
Yeah.
So it's actually very hard to sort of exceed the limit of these cars now. I don't know, did you...
With 1,000 horsepower, maybe that's for the best.
Oh, no. Exactly. But this is my point, going right back to the 640 horsepower being enough. All you're doing is creating 1,500 horsepower to sell the car, and then taking it all away with the computers.
Sure.
You never actually drive a 1,500 horsepower car. Like I said, you probably drive an 800 or 600 because the computer.
100%. So that Lucid, that blue Lucid that I just showed you in normal, what you would call normal mode, right? Street drive mode.
Yeah.
The car is front wheel drive. They turn off the rear motors. It's a coaster rear motors, and you have a 700 horsepower front drive motor, which is a little silly, but it is unnecessary, and we're in this situation where they add power to keep up with the weight, they add weight to keep up with the power, they add and we spiral and spiral and spiral, and so. That's why we haven't driven one, but the Alpine, I want to drive one so badly, and Gordon Murray going the other way, and then you have people like Roof doing their new CTR, which is very, very light, 2,500 pounds, and so hopefully that starts to come around. We'll see. I don't know.
It's a bit like the famous Porsches, in California, the
Singers.
The Singers. Yeah. So I did a very early Singer test. We did this sort of fifth gear about 10, 15 years ago. Loved the cars, loved them. Went out to that racetrack, where everyone goes in the desert.
Willow
somewhere.
Springs.
Yeah, went out there and had a huge amount of fun. But now I read about him doing these turbos, isn't he? And he's going up to like $4 million, and I'm saying, no, don't know. Just keep them down to sort of normal, drivable cars when an amateur could open the throttle and not scare himself shitless.
I agree with you, but I know the higher ups at Singer, and you know what happens with those cars, and this is maybe a symptom of a larger problem in our world, but the people who are buying them are competing with other owners to have higher and higher specifications versions of the cars, and they keep asking them to make a crazier one, a more expensive one, a more exclusive one, and this and that. And it's the owner of the business, the ownership, it's very hard for someone to say, okay, well, the normal one is $500,000, but what could you make me for $3 million? And you go, you don't want to say, listen, this is enough for you.
But it'll sit in his museum all its life.
Yeah, probably.
I told.
Go ahead.
This electric stuff that's happening, I don't know how quick it's going to happen in America. So this electric move, which is compulsory by law in Britain, it is coming quicker than you think. We're at 2030 is now still, the last government moved to 2035, but by then all the manufacturers have reassigned the whole planning for the future, what cars are going to build. So in 2030, you will not be able to buy a petrol car in Britain. And that's, that's 6 years to go.
They have said that about they haven't said it in America, because in America our states they like to keep their own laws about stuff, but California, which is where we are, they sort of lead when it comes to automotive regulation, and then all the other states tend to fall in line behind that. So they've said 2035 ban on gasoline cars in California, but I have a feeling that won't be quite tenable, and they'll just kind of keep nudging it back a bit. And I like an electric car for a runabout, for a street car, for running errands.
They suit your lifestyle.
They're nice.
They suit what you do. Fine. But we had this, they also, the government put this, the worst thing, that if you don't sell a certain percentage of electric cars, you get fined £1,500 for every car they don't sell. So people like Ford have dropped all the wonderful little hot hatches that the kids buy, the cheap cars that are all, you can't buy them anymore now. You have to buy an electric sort of mid-sized car. Yeah. And it's sort of like the red Alpine. This is the last one. The next Alpine in 2 years' time will be electric.
Next Boxster and Cayman as well. Like, no!
There we go. And what annoys me most, that Ford had these EcoBoost 3-cylinder engines that did, very small CO2 emissions, tiny, so they had no tax. And they were really slow, but, my son's got a £1,000 Vauxhall Corsa. Okay. That's definitely not going to spoil. He bought a 20-year-old car. So he drove it to the south of France and back, 1,000 miles there and back with his mates for a holiday. Now, that's a 20-year-old car worth £1,000. Now, in 20 or 30 years' time, you won't be able to buy anything for that money that will go more than 10 feet before the electric batteries stop.
I think that is really a concern, Yeah,
so poor people, or less well-off, whatever word you want to use nowadays, and people, students, kids, you won't be able to buy a Volkswagen Beetle and go down to Surfing City with a 20-year-old car. Right. For society, I know this CO2, I know what's happened, the emissions have to be looked at, but it's a huge change in how our kids and less well-off people are going to get around. I think they want them all on trains and buses and stuff. They don't want them driving cars, to be honest.
Well, look, you're totally right, and I think they should have more trains also. But there is even people of good faith who love the environment and want clean air, and also want there to be able to be cars that last a long time, and an efficient gasoline-powered car that can do 40 or 45 miles a gallon, but will last for 30 years. There's a very strong argument to be made that those cars should be allowed versus a car that is electric and produces zero emissions, tailpipe, but becomes a totally disposable good after 10 or 12 or 15 years. And I'm sure scientists and whatever are working on it.
It's already too late in the UK. That's too late. It's gone. The small, cheap car that you could work on yourself, put the oil filter in, do the tap. It's just gone already for 5 years' time. And I think it's a shame. I mean, for all you future motoring journalists, lucky I'm old enough now. I'm sort of, I don't think I'll still be track testing things in 2022, 2032. So.
Well, literally next week, I'm doing with Road and Track, I'm track testing the Performance Electric Vehicle of the Year. So we're having a big group test of fast electric vehicles because that's what the suits want us to do. We have the gas one a month after, so we're not abandoning that. But go ahead.
I do these passenger rides. One of my extra jobs now, I've got a BMW M2 down at Thruxton Racetrack. I've been doing it for 10 years now because I used to be a BMW ambassador. And passengers sitting with me, cameras on. You can find them on YouTube and stuff. I do 3 laps sideways, 140 miles an hour, tower smoking. And of course, you have to fill up with fuel quite often to get through the day. I do about 200 miles in a good day, so we have to fill it up several times.
How many rides is that?
Only about 30 rides. So I did 3 laps, so that's
wow.
It's not a lot, but it's getting 6 miles to the gallon flat out too. So that's why
that's a lot of rides.
How is the car held up to that sort of work?
It's fine, yeah, amazing. Really? Yeah, it's great. That's what it's designed to do. But I don't know what electric car I could do that in. The tyres would last more than 5 laps, and how long the battery range. If you drive a performance electric car fast for more than the range is incredibly short. I don't know. I mean,
the only solution to that is very high speed fast charging at the track. So I just did. Have you seen the Hyundai Ioniq 5N?
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yes,
it's pretty. It looks sort of geometric, like out of the '80s almost. But it actually, I swear to God, it's electric, but it has synthetic gears, so it mimics your face. It mimics. Look, I'm not saying it's as good or as desirable, but it is actually pretty fun. I promise you, it's pretty fun. I drive a lot of stuff. It's pretty fun. Clarkson just raved about. It's all-wheel drive, but you can slide it very effectively. There it is. Clarkson just raved about it in Sunday Times a couple weeks ago. It looks
good.
It does look good.
I remember him now.
And the only reason I'm bringing it up is not because you would prefer it to what you're doing. You wouldn't. But it lasted a full 30-minute track session at full throttle at Laguna Seca, which is Big Hills.
Laguna,
and if you were to have 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
Yeah, 30 minutes. Well, how long would a tank of gas last?
Yeah, about 30 minutes.
About 30 minutes. So if you had a fast charger and could fill it back up in 15 minutes, okay. So not as good, but not horrible. If they put fast charging.
For the weight, what is that? Does that weigh 2 tons? I mean, it's still a heavy thing.
Yeah, it does. It does weigh 2 tons. It's 4,600 pounds. It's heavy. It's heavy. Mm-hmm. The tires lasted for me, but I wasn't doing full-on drift laps like you would be doing. They would not last that long for you. So what is in Tiff's garage right now?
Nothing. This is all because I never got rich enough. Everyone thinks I've got a Ferrari, a Lamborghini, and I played charity golf with rich people that have come along and say I'm around at golf with someone, and they always say, what do you think of the new Lambo? Oh, yeah, I had the Lambo Murcielago. Now I've got the thing. I had a Ferrari, so I've done Ferraris, and so I've just got. Now I've got a Bugatti coming soon. But what have you got, Tiff? Well, I've got my 1971 Formula Ford that I won in a magazine competition, which I bought back, and I've got my lawnmower. Oh. my road cars. I haven't bought a road car since 1982.
No way.
I've never, because I'm a racing driver. The whole trouble is, I'm not a journalist. I've become one. These things I've had to become. I'm a civil engineer, qualified, worked full time as a civil engineer. Well, I was 5 days a week as a civil engineer, 5 nights a week in a little garage, working on my Formula Ford. And the weekend, I was the van driver, the mechanic, and the racing driver. So I'm just a racing fan. So I had vans when I was young. And because I didn't have to buy a road car, because I was loaning them I was working for different companies as running their track days, or as a Porsche driver. So I had 3 Porsches for a couple of years. And then I was a BMW ambassador for 10 years or more. So I never had to buy a road car. So why bother?
So when you're driving on the road, are you driving press cars still?
Yeah, well, loaners. See, I've got Maserati Ghibli. I've got one of the most damaged car by journalists. I worry sometimes. I see a new car come out, and all of a sudden, all the journalists are all slagging this car off.
Yeah,
that's amazing. All the journalists. And I'm worried that sometimes there was one famous journalist at the press launch who comes back at the bar that night and say, well, the ride quality wasn't very good on that new BMW, was it? And boom, all the journalists next week, ride quality. The Maserati Ghibli.
Yeah.
It's the most wonderful 4-door spacious saloon with room in the boot for golf clubs and electric trolley. And it's been phased out mainly because people want SU horrible Vs.
Yeah.
But also all the journalists killed it. They made a big mistake when they launched it. I was on the launch as well, with a diesel engine. They were trying to
we never got that. Yeah, no, we never got that.
The idea was to compete with BMW, Mercedes for salesmen's motors cruising up and down Britain.
Sure.
And I think they quickly dropped the diesel. But in fact, in Top Gear magazine in January this year, they did a sort of millennium disasters, and number one was the Ghibli.
It's, you know what? It's probably not as bad. It looks good.
Yeah.
It does. It's got Chrysler buttons and stuff in it, though, which I don't think does it much favor.
Journalists notice that. You see, I'm not being a journalist. I never noticed this. All my colleagues say, "You've seen that." No, I never noticed things like that.
Well, you know what the Maserati people,
I never use.
The Maserati people told me that people who buy Maseratis have never been in a Chrysler. They don't know the difference. I was like, that is bold. That is a bold thing to bet.
It's a lovely car. I cruise along smelling the leather and people admire it. I love the image of a Maserati with the old three-pronged thing. But it's got
the idea of a Maserati is great.
Yeah. It's been discontinued. So I don't know what. So it's a car dealership I'm an ambassador for, and they lend me cars.
Oh, okay, cool. So it's not the traditional press cars. I was gonna ask if you were still, because if you had a press car game going for 44 years, I was like, wow, that may be the greatest racket of all time that you've got going on.
I had Saabs for a couple of years, yeah. Nissan,
now we're talking.
Primeras. I was a Nissan Citroen. I was a Citroen ambassador for years. And yeah, it's just bizarre. And we've got the family car's a BMW X3.
Okay, that's a lovely car.
My wife had an X5. My wife is lovely. She's wonderful. So we bought an X5 and she kept it for 15 years, 150,000 miles. She didn't want to change it. It started to go a bit wrong. Yeah. So we sold the X5 and bought this second-hand X3, saving money, don't buy new. And it's almost the same size as the X5 we sold.
Yeah, they've all kind of gotten a step bigger. The new X3 is the size of the old X5, and and the new X5 is now huge. Yeah.
The family road cars are my wife's 2-year-old X3, my free Maserati, my son's 20-year-old Vauxhall Corsa.
I love it. I mean, that's. Listen, James May was just here, and he has a Ferrari, but we glossed over it for 20 seconds and started talking about Fiat Pandas and 1-liter Golfs.
So we talked about how he never drives his Ferrari.
Yeah. So it's for the best. I read the story of the race car that you won in a contest. I didn't know you had bought it back. That's pretty cool.
Yes. Yeah. It's actually a good pub quiz question if you ever want a pub quiz. It's on my phone. I don't have my wife on my phone. I have the Lotus on my phone, which I'm talking. There it is.
There you go.
Oh, that was my Barclay card number.
And also, I saw for a second it said Barclay card. I was like, oh shit, blur that. No information.
Notifications. So I won the car in the magazine competition, 1970. I was a civil engineer. I was never.
What was the competition? Was it just enter to win, or did you have to do something?
You had to do something. So it was back in those days. There were lots of these competitions where they gave you a list of 10 things, and you had to put them into order of importance. Okay. And it could be for a washing powder. It could be for a refrigerator. It could be lots of different things. And this was in the Autosport magazine, racing magazine. So it was things you have to do to prepare a car for a race.
Oh, so man, that's like that. You shouldn't be allowed to win that.
Brakes. I didn't know what, but you had to buy a line. Right, and they were 1 shilling and 6. They're about 50 cents a line back in 1971, maybe less than that. So you could make 20 rows if you wanted to, put things in different orders of importance. And then after the competition was over, a judging panel of experts would say what they thought the correct order of importance was, and the person that matched up the line won the car.
There you go.
Somehow I did. I mean, just out of the blue. Olivia Newton-John was on the television singing If Not For You on our Top of the Pops, a famous British TV programme. When the phone rang and this voice said, "You're a very lucky man. This is the editor of Autosport," and boom. It was just unbelievable. It's like winning the lottery or the pools or whatever you have. It was just incredible.
How cool that you still have, or what did you sell it for?
So I smashed it to pieces for 2.5 years, learning the ropes of Formula Ford.
Yeah.
Before a manufacturer offered me a new chassis at cost price, so I was able to sell the Lotus. It went off, and that's a 61. People often think it was a 61. 69, which is a much more beautiful car. So they've got to go researching again.
That one says 1969.
Yeah.
Oh, does it?
That one,
it was 1960. That is the confusion. It was 69 because mine was 1970. So it changed in 1970.
Got
so,
it.
so the Lotus 61 was in 69, and the Lotus 69 was in 70.
Can always trust race car drivers to do things that make sense.
It was Lotus numbers just happened to coincide with the decade at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I sold it to a guy in Austria. The last I heard, it was crashed off the side of a hill climb and was never going to come back. But about 20 years ago, someone said, "I've got your Lotus." I said, "You can't have it." Sold it to, no, it's got, And the chassis number was right, and the gearbox number was right, but after the chassis was new because I twisted the chassis. I bent wishbones back with a heated with a vice, and I bend suspension things back straight again.
Oh, man. Have you driven it since you got it back?
Yeah, no, he raced it then in England. We have a historic series pre-72, so it was quite a successful car. He got it going again. And eventually they kept, "You want to buy it, Tiff? No, you've got to have it, Tiff. You've got to buy it, So again, eventually, 2014, I gave in, bought it from him, repainted it exactly the same colour scheme as it was when I won it, which is what it looks like it does now. There's actually quite a good pub quiz, or pub quizzes in America. What do you call a pub quiz in America?
Bar trivia. Same.
Bar trivia.
Yeah.
Bar
it doesn't sound as
so,
good. It never does, but it's America for you.
I won my first race. My first race win was in that car in 1972.
All right.
Having bought it back, I then started racing again in this historic series. And in 2016, I won a race at Thruxton in the historic championship. So same driver, same car, same circuit, winning 40 years apart.
That's pretty good, man.
You've got to beat
That's
that.
pretty cool. Yeah, we have
You
quite
have
a
Sorry. I don't know. I just feel like your story is so cool because there's a lot of engineers that go to track days. There's a lot of crossover, and we've talked to Gordon Murray and other people about. So a lot of them got jobs at tuning places, our friend Ali, by developing their own race car, their own suspension, or working on it themselves. And I feel like you are their hero because you won a race car in a magazine, then won a race with that, and then launched a racing career, and then eventually a television career. It's pretty cool.
Oh no, it is. It's completely unbelievable, really. In fact,
That's
if you wanna
like
look at pictures,
Zach
my
Brown won
website-
Wheel of Fortune and used the money from Wheel of Fortune to buy a go-kart.
Yeah.
That crazy?
He was over in England. He was over in England staying on Richard Dean's floor when he came and raced a bit of Formula Ford over here with no money at all. If you go on my website, go look at pictures. If you go to tiff.tv, simple website.
We will we'll put that up there.
I've done 50 photos for 50 years, a little scrolling table, and you can scroll through. There we go.
Oh, there he is, the cover of Autosport with you in the
when,
car. Look at the hair, though. It's not you?
That's when the magazine was launched. That's the competition that was launched.
Oh, yeah. It's a very Stig-like photo, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So then you scroll to the right, you can look at my hair in the 1960s. And
man, you had a real rock star haircut going on back then, didn't you?
First crash, that was the first crash. Not good.
What a great photograph, though, of that crash. That's unbelievable.
There's the first win. There's the first win. You see at Thruxton.
Yeah, but look at I'm just captivated by your Jimmy Page hair.
That's amazing.
I mean, that's unbelievable. You could have been in the Who or something. That's awesome.
Lots of Formula Fords.
Amazing.
50 years, 50 photos for 50 years if you keep wandering around scrolling.
That rules. We have quite a few. We have a Patreon, patreon.com/the Smoking Tire Podcast. And I have to give a shout out to our patrons because they have asked some really good questions that they would like us to ask you today. So we've got about 15 minutes, so let's see. Here we go. This is a good one. Matt Farah Taylor's version, good username, says, Tiff, would you be willing to share your favorite Sabina Schmitz story? She was an amazing member of the car community, and we miss her. Touché.
I don't know. She was. I did about 5 films on Fifth Gear because, of course, she was on Fifth Gear again before Top Gear. We train up, people. Chris Harris was on. Chris Harris was on Fifth Gear before.
He was. Yeah, he did a show with Zach and I as well.
Her laughter. It was just her laughter. I mean, that's all I remember so much. She just has this all the time. She was always laughing, always taking the mickey out of me. And she was goading me on. We had these competitions, we had to try and drift each other. In fact, I nearly rolled one of those 3-wheeled things before Freddie Flintoff, myself, the same year. Horrible photo. I nearly crashed one of those. So she was just always insulting me as much as possible about my lack of talent and then laughing in her own hysterical way. Absolutely lovely lady. It's such a shame.
Yeah, she was a boss, man. Mm-hmm. She every time she was on video, not only was she fast, but big smile, and very quick wit, talking mad shit.
Possibly the funniest German ever.
Yeah. Germans are not known for being funny, but whoa, the landline is calling.
It's just got turned off again.
We have a couple of good questions that we actually sort of already answered in the show. So Matt Ortiz and Strom Speed, I think we've covered your points. Myron Vernus, a good friend of ours, says, which host in the history of Top Gear, I'm going to asterisk, other than yourself, is the best driver?
Well, the best driver, Top Gear. Well, there weren't many other drivers. Fifth Gear, of course, we got Jason Plato and Henderson. So we had 3 drivers there. I'm getting recordings now of what's happening.
It's Barclay card.
It's the voicemail. It's
Barclay card.
Barclay, I say you've spent all your money. Yeah, because we had Jason Plato. So on Top Gear, the word to the other, I was the tame race driver. Of course, Vicky joined us on Top Gear as well.
Yes.
And so everything else is still messaging. I'm going to put this in
What is your phone doing over there?
He's got an answering machine. So
I can hear the answering machine.
Yeah.
It's the old answering machine working away in the background. I've sat on it now. That was shutting up.
All right. So who wins in a race? Richard, James, and Clarkson.
Well, Clarkson just about, because I taught him all he knew. We'd go out his airfields. I tried to get him to drift, and he always mentions it to me and thanks me for doing that. But of course, he could eventually go into drift, but he could never get it back straight again. So on all those runways, every time you see these great slides, it's him, but then he goes out of shot because he's now
yeah.
But
those of us who know video can spot the cut point.
The annoying thing is, the most annoying thing is the BBC. They did a big thing. Someone showed a birth of a polar bear and pretended they'd filmed it in Antarctica. And it turned up it was in a German zoo. Yeah. And so it was huge upset because you must never, ever fool the public and pretend you're doing something that's not real. BBC rules. Sure. So what does annoy me, or did and still bugs me, is that, of course, Richard Hammond would be, and this car handles cut. Whoa! with the Stig in the film. They used all their Stig drivers, stunt drivers, to do the slide shots. Yeah. And so the Joe public believed that Hammond and May could power slide round corners, which they can't.
Their jump cuts were a little more.
Again,
egregious.
those of us who know editing and know the cut points were pretty obvious. And
that's why with Harris they have the over-the-shoulder camera.
Yeah. Chris can do his own stunts for sure.
Chris is brilliant. Chris is fantastic. He's probably the best drifter out now. I think he gets in so many big hypercars and does it. It's amazing. Yeah, so I'm a lot of fun filming with Chris. Yeah, so Chris, Jason Plato and Chris are probably the best drivers I've filmed with.
Yeah, Chris is. We've done television with Chris as well, and before he left to go do Top Gear, and he was great at driving and a very, very solid individual. Tim, we've already talked about the 5,500-pound curb weight of the M5 Touring. Okay. Timbo says, car enthusiasts have a love affair with all things Aston Martin and Lotus, but was Cosworth, for an Englishman, on the same level? How do you think about Cosworth, and where do you position them in automotive lore?
But they didn't build cars, but the engine.
They build engines.
That's the point. The engine, the DFV engine that came in 1967 into Formula One, transformed Formula One. It was the most magnificent piece of engineering. And of course, Colin Chapman bolted it onto the back of his Lotus 49, and it became the dominant car for a couple of years. So the Cosworth DFV was absolutely iconic, and it came over. It did IndyCar, the DFW, I think they call it DFX. Yeah. They did Le Mans as well. I mean, it did every form of motorsport and won races. So it was the most magical piece of engineering.
That's the engine. If I was to build,
maybe they're talking about the Ford Cosworth road cars, of course. There were the whale tail turbocharged. Oh, okay.
Cosworth, well,
the Cosy.
Do we love those
Ford
too?
Adore those. In fact, I've just done another story. I've done that on Top Gear and Fifth Gear. And recently did on a friend of mine, Johnny Smith's got his little smoking tires, not smoking tires. What's it called?
The late break show.
Late break show.
Johnny's awesome.
And I went back and re-drove a car that I won a race in, a Ford Cosworth that I raced and won a race in. I was reunited with it. It was quite an emotional piece on the late break show quite recently. But
when you get back in an old car that you raced in, is it instantly familiar? I always wonder that kind of thing.
Yeah, pretty much. In fact, it just takes you back. I couldn't go too far. It was an owner's private love, and it was well presented. But you never know how far to rank cars when they haven't been attended to recently. There it is. That's
look at that.
Car. Yeah,
that's a great looking race car. Labatt's livery. That's excellent.
But it was funny. You talk about blipping throttles and things. I was actually, because I was going down, 90%, 80%. Filming away, and I suddenly thought, I can hear that. God, that engine blips itself really nicely. How nice that engine automatically blips itself. And I thought, no, of course, it was me doing it. I literally had that thought. So I got so used to flapping paddles, the revs rise.
That's so funny.
It was really bizarre. I actually genuinely thought the thing was blipping itself. But of course, it was just something you automatically do. And it's one of those pleasures. It's one of those joys when you match the revs on a downshift,
100%.
Taken away. Just taken
100%. away. I always wondered, when you see it like Goodwood or something, you'll see, Jackie Stewart or one of the old school racing drivers, it's significantly older than when they were racing the cars now. They get in, the car that they won a championship with it and take a couple laps. I always wonder what the relearning curve is of that experience,
I've always kept going, Goodwood. I raced Goodwood the last 24 years. I've done every Goodwood revival meeting, so I've always been getting in and out of older race cars and stuff. So
awesome. What are you driving this year there?
He said the
another
Lister.
Lister.
Right, yeah, the Lister Nobly.
Yeah.
The Nobly.
Yeah,
the Lister.
With a Chevy in it.
Yeah. 3 more, and then we are done. Michael says, what car that you raced in the past would you most like to take out now for a few more laps?
The Mark 782 BMW pre-ground effect.
Yeah.
Just wonderful. Wonderful.
And Mark says, he wants to know about if there are any interesting backstories doing the 918 LaFerrari and P1 video with Chris Harris. Were you there for that one?
Oh, yeah. Holy Trinity.
Yeah.
You were there for that one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were there.
Now, those cars are outside of what you think the limits should be. So, were they not fun?
They were fun, but they were actually taught. I picked the Ferrari because it had the least hybrid and was the most naturally aspirated car, normally aspirated car. Whereas the McLaren had to be on its low ride heights. McLaren wouldn't allow them to take the car on road trim, which annoyed me. So the lap times are very relevant to road conditions. And the Porsche, I just didn't get on with the Porsche. But they weren't that powerful, were they? They're getting towards they were under 1,000 because
they were all in the nines, yeah.
But they weren't when they drove them. The reason why the McLaren never did the Nürburgring stupid lap record, most stupid lap record ever invented. No regulations. It's stupid. Because they couldn't do a whole lap before the battery power ran out.
Yeah.
So, and it was the same with when we were filming all day long. We'd thrash around for 2 or 3 laps. But as soon as we were in the pit lanes, the relative representatives, Mark, were back in the car park going up and down to recharge
the batteries. That's hilarious.
If you did more than 10 laps, you were down to 600 horsepower.
Yeah, it's very funny now with all our hybrid. The hybrid cars they're coming out. We've got the Artura, we've got the Corvette E-Ray, we've got the new 911 GTS with a mild hybrid, and now every time I go on a launch for one of these cars, I say, how long will the battery last? And they all have exactly the same answer. 1 lap of the Nürburgring plus a little bit. That's it. That is it. It's
it is. Porsche 956 Red Le Mans is the sort of magical sort of. But they're building racing cars now for the road. Really, they're sort of building the things I raced in Group C in the 1980s and 90s, and loved racing those 10 years of going around the bank at Daytona at 200 miles an hour in your Porsche 962. We were leading one night in the middle of the night. I remember going around, coming out turn 4. I'd always look at the big lollipop, whatever you call it, and make sure my number was still at the top of the totem pole thing. I have some such fond memories of racing at Daytona. It really was a wonderful trip. And I went to Indianapolis for the first time last year, the 500.
Oh, really?
What
did you think of it as a spectator?
Stunning. Just stunning. Just makes a mess of Formula One. Just for show. And the Americans do put on good shows. You always think you're a bit over the top most of the time. But I don't know, I love it with the NASCAR races, the IndyCar races, when you have the Lord's Prayer and all very religious, and then the anthem goes off, and then the jets go over the top.
It's
And
good when they get the jets. They get the jets going. I like that. Yeah.
So I've been to about 3 or 4 Daytona 500s with entertaining guests, bringing people from Britain to watch. And in that race, when they come round going 4 wide, everyone stands up and salutes, and the anthem's going off. And again, it makes the hair stand up. And it did at Indy. And then, of course, you haven't seen them going fast all day long.
Yeah.
In Indy, we only turned up I hadn't seen them go fast at all. We came up the day before the race. So they're all cruising around in the crowd, are all up. And then when they first come round, first lap at 200 miles an hour, I mean, it's just stunning,
Yeah.
It's
And there were a lot
stuff.
of the order changed a lot in that race too. It's going back to
there was plenty,
F1's
there
kind of
was,
processional, but I mean there was a lot of swaps for first, second, third place.
We need
the
more
mad
overtaking.
Ferrucci kid was up there. The loony Ferrucci was going around the outside of people. But Daytona's the same. The thing about Daytona, I love to keep on telling people. I know on telly it gets a bit boring for after about 20 laps or 60 laps. They're all just going around 200 miles an hour. But of course, you've got the radios you can listen to. And that's the joy of going to Daytona. You can tune in to any driver you want to listen to what they're talking about, hear the spotters calling out them, So I'm such a huge fan of American motorsport, and I'm embarrassed by Formula One at the moment. So
I think if you get a chance, you should try to see a NASCAR road course race, because they are a shit show in the best way. They're a good time. I saw NASCAR at COTA at Circuit of the Americas last year, which was a riot.
Course limits, what are those?
It was people
Track
were just
limits?
completely ignoring the edges of the track
know,
and passing in the grass. I mean, it was
ridiculous.
nuts. It was really crazy.
And I'm a big fan of Kyle Larson. I'm a number 5.
Oh, yeah.
5 man. But Larson seems to be, apparently he was in the press recently, or someone, I can't believe it was him, has claimed that he's as talented as Max Verstappen or something.
Yeah, he said if they drove over a variety of cars, he thinks he'd be better than Max if they were in.
Aren't we still doing Race of Champions? Isn't that still a thing? Let's make it happen.
It's a stupid thing. Yeah, but it's a rally drivers course, isn't it? Because the rally boys are coming. The best drivers are rally drivers. The forests at 100 miles an hour. But it's a different discipline. And we talked about this on Monday night. Now, really, Verstappen and Larson and the Cali Rovanpera, if you gave them 2 years in the other person's cars, they'd probably come up with the same results.
Sure.
But you've got to have the 2 years of experiencing a different form of driving. So the natural talent, I agree, is probably there. But who brought up this Larson thing? Did he bring it up, or was he challenged to sort of discuss it?
I'll find it.
I don't know. Zach is looking for it. In the meantime, Tiff, while Zach is finding it, what was your favorite British touring car to drive? Was it that Sierra Cosworth?
Yes, because I won in that, and that was a British car. Because of course, when it became big, touring cars were all about Alfa Romeos and BMWs and Nissans. There was the Vauxhall Cavalier, which I managed to bump into Nigel Mansell in once, and I think he hit something quite hard. I can't remember. Apparently, it was my fault. I can't remember what happened there.
I don't know.
But of course,
I don't quite remember that incident. Whose fault it was? I don't know really.
But that Sierra Cosworth, that was the end of sort of free-range touring cars. That was when the front-wheel drive, the 2-litre formula came in to get more manufacturers involved, which made super touring such a successful formula. Because then you had sort of 3 BMW. But I'd love to have been the BMW, the rear-wheel drive one, but never got to race one. But,
I haven't. It wasn't a touring car, but we've in America we now have these affordable racing series. One is called Champ. One is called American Endurance Racing. There's a couple more. They're basically the same formulas. Cheap car racing, and we've raced a BMW 325 E30, and it's just the best race car. It's so fun.
Unless you go single seaters, unless you go forward. Can you get me a drive in a Formula 4 around America?
Look how big I am. I'm not getting in a single seater. I don't do single seater. I need a cabin around me. I'm sure somebody will listen to this and get you a drive in a single seater around Road America, though. That is my favorite racetrack. So you're in
the best.
It's
the
amazing.
Best in the world.
It's America's Spa, basically.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, I personally think Spa is a little better, but it is the closest you can get to Spa without being at Spa.
I don't know.
Zach found the quote.
Yeah, so this was an interview with flowracing.com, FLO, no W. And so they had prompted him and said, do you think you're a better driver? This is a quote. So, quote, Kyle Larson, "Not really. I know in my mind I am better than him as an all-around driver." And then he continued, There's no way Verstappen can get into a sprint car and win the Knoxville Nationals. There's no way he can win the Chili Bowl. There's no way he could win a cup race. There's probably no way I could win Formula One race at Monaco, but I think I'd have a better shot at him just because of the car element. He just says, I think I'm better than him in anything that isn't open wheel. So,
he's a very modest guy. I love him, Carl.
Yeah, and he says you can quote that at the end of his quote.
The NASCAR guys, they got that ego going.
Some of them.
Yeah. But I would like to see a multidisciplinary race of champions where you've got, an open wheel car, a rally car, a GT style car. That would be awesome. I think.
What were those great races in the 70s? They all had Camaros or Mustangs.
IROC. That was International Race of Champion. IROC. Yeah.
But you talk about NASCAR. Dario Franchitti did NASCAR for a year.
Yeah.
He hated it. He was so scared of the bloody things. I said, he was at the back of the grid. I was over at Daytona filming the 50th year, the golden anniversary or something, film for Fifth Gear. And he was just, and he said, because I
Jensen,
said, you're only
thing.
turning left, Darren. He says, no, I'm not. I'm turning right more than I'm turning left because the bloody thing's on a knife edge. And they have
that
to
was
run
what
so fast.
Juan Pablo Montoya on an episode of Top Gear was like saying how shitty the cars were as he was about to go race one.
They were worse. They've gotten better.
That's why we followed NASCAR. My son and I, we like Montoya going there. So that's why we became 42 fans. We actually came to Indianapolis to watch the Brickyard race one summer when I watched the Rats race. And then, of course, Larson got the 42, so we became 42 fans with Larson. And then, of course, now he's in the 5. And
Jensen raced at COTA, and he just said he didn't realize how much contact there would be, and it would not get flagged. There's a steep learning curve
Jensen's
to that.
post-race interview from COTA was hilarious. He was like, "We were really hitting each other."
Track limits didn't matter. It's a different style.
One of the fittest men on this planet. Doing triathlons nowadays was knackered. He nearly retired, didn't he? He nearly had to come in and give up.
Yeah, he almost got dehydrated. Yeah.
It's like 140 degrees in the car, according to my buddy who races there.
Yeah, I pointed out that Michigan race last weekend. Michigan, was it the last NASCAR race last weekend?
I don't know. I think so.
Anyway,
yeah.
But Thingy lost control. The 11, Hamlin. So I say it's all at 180 miles an hour. It all looks dead easy. But as soon as he ran up behind Bubba that he was following and just lost that bit of aero, he's losing 200 miles an hour. He loses control. Kyle Larson, as we said, one of the greatest talents on this planet. On a restart, he was boxed up in the middle, tried to move up a few lanes to get a better position, and spun it himself. You never see a Formula One car getting
just
spun
spontaneously spin off.
The arrow is so important and difficult to manage. Yeah.
Well, I think Zach and I are going to the race in Miami at the end of October if the stars align. So we'll have some content from down there, which will be pretty cool.
Well, you make sure you go to the show and you go to the Pretend Beach and you make sure you see Billy Starlett's disco
the NASCAR race, not the F1.
Sorry,
the NASCAR race, yeah. No, the Pretend Beach that is golden. The marina, they put the yachts on the trailers.
So ridiculous.
So silly. All of it is so
where's the Miami track? Which track are they racing around?
It's a Homestead, Miami Homestead. It's an oval. It's a big oval. Yeah. It's a permanent.
Is that the last round of playoffs or not? Is that the final?
It might be. Yeah, it might be because we're.
I know you're more than usual about America, but I have to get my. This is for when I'm doing my podcast. I've got all the series and all the dates.
Wow!
He has a spreadsheet that he made by hand.
Pulled up a handmade spreadsheet of all the racing dates.
Oh, I don't know. Cause at the bottom of it only goes down to October the 6th, Talladega, and then there's 5 more rounds after Talladega. So
it's probably not the last one because they're not having 5 races in between the 6th and the 27th. It's probably towards the end, but
it's every weekend, isn't it? So add 5 weeks to October the 6th, and you're putting it.
That would be middle of November, yeah. So it's third to last race. Well, look, Tiff. This has been a really fun 90 minutes.
I'm embarrassed I've got that out now. But,
No, look at that. You're a true professional. Look, I have notes. I have notes as well. We all have our notes.
But the trouble is, I'm just a kid that stood at a fence watching Jim Clark and Mike Hawthorne and Sterling Moscow by dreaming of being a race. I'm the kid from the terraces that got onto the track by luck. So I'm primarily still just a petrol-headed racing fan, and I just follow motorsport around the world and love to sort of comment on it and talk about it to people that listen.
Yeah, and I think your enthusiasm has always been unique and infectious, and is probably what I mean. It made me a huge fan of you back when I watched that video of you sliding the McLaren. I was like,
and now we're on Love Cars.
Yes, Love Cars on Prime.
Love Cars and on the road.
Prime.
And like so few racing drivers before you, you can actually talk on camera, which is what Jeremy Clarkson said was not possible. How about that? Get On the Road on Amazon Prime right now. 2 seasons are up. The 3rd season, if everyone goes and watches it, they can get a 3rd season. And Tiff, if you do end up coming to Miami for NASCAR in October, please let us know. Maybe we'll meet you down there. And if anybody has an open wheel car in the state of Wisconsin and would like to let Tiff have a go at Road America, send us a note and we'll make sure he gets it. Because that is something not to be missed.
We could film it for Series 3 on Amazon Prime on the road, couldn't it? That could be a good story as well.
There we go. Now we're talking. Oh, that camera. Yes, I'm pointing at camera 1. Well, go to tiff.tv for all things Tiff Needell. And, of course, one more time, On the Road is on Amazon Prime. Get it. Thank you to our patrons for asking such good questions today. And we will see you all later. And...
thanks, boys.
That's it. Thank you, Tiff. That was really fun. I really appreciate your time.
Cheers.
That was fantastic.
Let us know if you come to Los Angeles for filming. We would be happy to host you in studio.
I was going to say I'm not coming back for another vacation. Then,
Yeah, you don't want to go to Hollywood
Never
Hills
again. Yeah. Well, for work.
Jeez. Where do you live in this great metropolis? Where are you now?
We are about 2.5 miles north of LAX airport. So we're halfway between LAX and Santa Monica where you were.
Yeah, you're right in the middle.
So
yeah.
we're
You're
right
near the
there.
beach,
So
then.
yeah, we're near the
it's very
beach.
close.
Yeah.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh,
5
cool.
minutes. Yeah. So if
I might have bicycled past you then when I was there on a little bicycle.
you might have everyone who comes in from the UK, they always land at the airport and then come straight to us. We're right here. James
All
did.
right,
He was
thanks,
heavily jet lagged, but we made him drink gin anyway.
Yeah.
All right, Tiff. Thank you very
Thanks
much.
so
We'll
much.
see you later.
Thank you too. Cheers, boys. Right.